you're exploring a land like India, where there is immense number of applications to every job that you post.
A developer can code, but when it comes to adding value and are passionate about what they do and they want to enhance their skills and learn and improve. I'd rather wait. I'd rather just not have someone than hire a bad person. And for me, a key thing is people that'll speak up and voice their opinion and be part of the team. So for me, I want people that will, in a constructive way, challenge people. If they think something's not right, they should bring it up.
Having diverse perspectives on the table. Very important to get out of that horseshoe view that we all generally get into just working by ourselves.
If you're going to try and recruit for people in a specific location, there's probably hubs where you'll find that. But if you open yourself up to an entire country, you can get better quality people.
We focused on building a platform where our role is majorly to facilitate the right matchmaking.
If you're an exec looking to build up a large offshore team, if anyone's trying to go quickly and scale up, I think they've got to be very cautious of that, because I don't think it works as well as they might think it does.
So today we are excited to welcome Justin Goldberg, the head of engineering at CompareClub and an experienced leader in strategy, partnerships and business development. So with a proven track record of building high-performing engineering teams, the passion we share, Justin has also brought us into this conversation with a unique perspective on global hiring, including his experience working with talented professionals from India. So let's deep dive into your journey, Justin.
So I came to Australia 11 years ago, and my first role here was at CBA, which is a large bank in Australia. And within there was a large offshoring capability there, but the quality of staff was probably wasn't up to the standard we needed it to be. And there were different partners that we were using, and just the way I worked with Agile and, augmenting with the team needed a lot of uplift. So I was heavily involved in terms of how we would set up offshoring teams, build out the capabilities, and I moved into a division there called ComSec, and with there we started from scratch, and we had a trip to India as well as Philippines just to have a look at offshoring capabilities, and we evaluated some of the larger vendors out there. And my first comment to one of the vendors there was, who was managing, I don't know if it was 5,000 developers or 50,000 developers, was the talent that we had was crap. Just really wasn't up to the mark. And they were stunned by it. They thought they had really good people. But I think there's varying levels of degree of good. Anyone, or a developer can code, but when it comes to adding value and having a high performing team, you want people who are passionate about what they do and they want to enhance their skills and learn and improve. And we weren't quite seeing that there. So we evaluated a couple of companies there, and I did something like a speed dating for candidates, where I said, give us your best candidates. And they're all lined up outside, and spent about 5 to 10 minutes with each candidate just to screen them. And it just didn't really hit the mark in terms of what I was after. So we went to the Philippines and we had a look at it again, a couple of companies there, did a similar sort of exercise. So just with all of that, there were different promises made in terms of the candidates that could provide, and especially when if you're coming into speaking to a vendor, they'll likely give you the best candidates they can initially, And what I always said to them was, put your best foot forward. If the first few candidates you give us aren't any good, it means the rest aren't going to be any good. And they kind of pushed them into the right direction to a degree, but I was still underwhelmed. We eventually set it up, and it was, it went relatively well considering, it's not an easy thing to do with offshoring, with remote staff. So I moved over to another company, and we had a large offshoring team in Indonesia. And for me, it took about 3 to 6 months to find one candidate. And almost on a weekly basis, I'd be approached from vendors saying, "Oh, we've got the best candidates, and come to us, and we'll give you the best people possible." And whenever I dived further into it, it just was never the case. It was always the same story. Everyone was, promising the same things. It just never eventuated. So I moved to CompareClub, and again, we've got a large offshoring team in India and the Philippines. We do have other vendors, and when I had a look at Uplers, my assumption was, here's another vendor, big promises, and we'll see how they can deliver. And I've been, I'm quite a harsh critic. I've got a high bar in terms of the people that I bring on. I was very pleasantly surprised by the platform. It's I said this before. Normally, in terms of the process you would follow for recruiting someone is you would get a job description or a CV from someone matching that job description, and typically most of the time it would follow. It's very hard to screen someone. Some good people may not write good CVs. You might want to give them the benefit of the doubt. You'd set up an interview, screening interview, half an hour or so, 15 minutes. You'd have to spend some time to coordinate all of that with relevant people. That would take time. Then if you speak to the person and they're not that great, you still want to give them a bit of courtesy and see if there is anything good. But it's half an hour gone. It's all the time to schedule that interview, everything that goes behind it. And it takes an incredible amount of time and effort to do all of that, which just it adds up. If you're doing it, if you have 100% hit rate, it's fine. But when you're hit like,
Especially when you're exploring a land like India, where there is immense number of applications to every job that you post. So screening becomes really time consuming, and you don't want to miss out on the best lot just because of having that mass application. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I come across this a lot where candidates get frustrated because they've applied for a job and they haven't been given the opportunity. But in reality, a manager like myself could get 100 candidates to 1,000 candidates for one role. And what'll typically happen in there is you'll go through the list, and the first 5 or 10 candidates you'll go through, and you'll say, okay, that's good enough for the next round. You'll go through them, go through the next, the whole process. You might find one person in there that's worth moving to the next round. And by the time, that person number 100 has hit the queue, you probably would have hired someone and the role's lost, and then you've missed out on that good person. So
hiring is always like as soon as possible.
yeah, and so look, I mean, for me, I've always said I'd rather wait. Like, I'd rather just not have someone than hire a bad person, which is why some of the roles have taken so long. So what I really like about the platform is, there's AI that goes and matches against the job description and the person's CV. So that's a relatively good indication. You can kind of get a summary of their skills and what their background is. And then I can just request for an AI interview. And in that process, I can put in the questions that I want asked. I can set the level of difficulty in there. And then during, while they're doing that, it's quite clear if they're cheating. You can kind of tell, which I've seen some candidates do. But generally, you can go through there. You can speed up the video. You can tell by a certain point if they're good enough for the next round. And I can do that in my own time. Like if I've got a few minutes here that are free, I can just do that and then move things, quite quickly. I'd like to move more quickly, but um,
Like everyone else.
sometimes things happen. But it's such a time saver in terms of that process, which I've never really experienced anywhere else. It's just such a like it's quite an archaic process. Even in Australia, like no one's got anything like this. It's still just
Music players, Justin.
yeah, it's just like it's definitely ripe for a disruption. So yeah, it's the AI part is really interesting. It's not 100% accurate or gives you great results, but it's a really good start, and it definitely saves a lot of time in there. And I could definitely see how that can improve over time. Just to get close to the mark. So, but I've never seen anyone else do it, so it's a really good start. And then just in terms of the whole process of scheduling an interview, like that's really easy to do, and just progressing people through the rounds, like you can get a good track of how people are progressing. So yeah, no, I've really enjoyed the platform. We've managed to hire 3 people already within I think probably around 6 weeks, which is very like I never really do that. Even for local hires, it takes me a lot longer to hire 3 people.
Yeah, that
And we've got 2 other vendors who have been looking for us, and we haven't had any. We've had one interview which hasn't gone really well, and they've gone through over 67 profiles and technical tests. So the hit rate's quite low. With this, it's in terms of the time invested and what we're getting out of it's been really positive.
absolutely amazing to hear that. And that's also one of the things that we are striving to do, Justin. Today, we know that the time is very crucial, and hiring is always an additional thing that we have to play as a role beyond what we actually want to make a difference to. And to support in that, we would love to have that time which everyone is investing in this process to be more meaningful and towards more relevancy. So that's our focus, that whatever screening, shortlisting, matchmaking we can do based on whatever uh, great mix of AI as well as human intelligence we have today. We save that time for you to kind of interact and have more uh, leeway to choose the best team for yourself. And it's really great to hear firsthand the experience you're having currently. Uh, pretty sure that we have a long way to go, and there is lot many things that will be needed to have this sustainable journey ahead. Uh, till now, working with different countries, different companies, what has been your biggest learning of building teams in India? Because there are a lot many nuances that we and try to foresee, but we are not able to kind of get that glimpse today. But in the journey, those nuances come into picture, and that's kind of okay. I should have known this before. Any such moments that you recall, and possibly that way that may also help the product companies across the globe who are currently exploring whether this is the country we should hire from, and how we should build our tech teams. Anything that can help in that direction.
Yeah, look, it's a difficult one because when I had a trip a couple of years ago to India and the Philippines, in terms of the candidates themselves, I'd probably say in India there's a lot more candidates available, but potentially just from a cultural perspective, I've noticed especially in larger vendors, there's a pride in working for some of the larger banks here or some well-known organizations. It brings joy to their family to know that they're working for such a company, and that's where the passion is for some of these people. And it's not in the technology side of it. It's kind of like, well, I'm working for a big company and that ticks the box. Great, okay, and they can do their work, but it's just not the level of people that are really passionate about what they do.
I was saying it's also we think majorly because when offshoring to larger enterprises, larger companies, generally the mass is such that you kind of have that managed service layer in between. And because of that, you don't get a chance to work directly with the actual team which is working on the product. And that alignment is very important, especially in this curation journey.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed is the managed service model. I've never seen it work. When I've done this, sort of walked into it in the past, it's the local teams have had to rewrite everything, or the team, the metrics that they're given is to deliver, and the business, there's normally a business department who's requesting the work, so they could care less about what happens under the covers. They just want the end goal. So if it's really buggy and there's no CI/CD or there's no good practice, they don't care. They just want that in state, and that's kind of where it drives a lot of you know the vendors to do those things and to take shortcuts, and just because they're not getting paid anything more for it. They've got a 3 month deadline, they have to hit it. So I've never really liked that model. I've had teams where they units, where there's engineers and QAs and BAs. I think that works well, probably pre-COVID, where people were collocated and they were in there day in day out. But with people working remotely now, the way I see it is more, and the way I like to hire is more. I don't really care where you situated. If I'm on a call in a Scrum meeting, you're not going to know where someone's located. So you just want someone who's got the same level of engagement, the same good level of good skill level. And for me, a key thing is people that'll speak up and voice their opinion and be part of the team. So for me, I want people that will, in a constructive way, challenge people. If they think something's not right, they should bring it up.
Having
And
diverse perspectives on the table. Very important to get out of that horseshoe view that we all generally get into just working by ourselves.
yeah, and you don't want someone who's just either an offshore person that will allocate work or they'll do this,
Yeah.
and you know you want to have a model where they're part of the team and they just happen to be working overseas. So the way I've always viewed it is we've got a team that's based in India who work for CompareClub. They just happen to work in India remotely as opposed to some suburb somewhere else.
Mhm.
So I think it's important if you treat people like that and treat them with the same level of inclusion, they'll feel more engaged, hopefully feel more engaged and want to contribute more. So I like that part of the augmentation of individuals working like that. Again, with COVID, the co-location companies doing 2 or 3 days a week in the office, it is good, like having that human interaction. But if you're going to try and recruit for people in a specific location, yeah, there's probably hubs where you'll find that. But if you open yourself up to an entire country, you can get better quality people. So I think there's positives in that to have a look at too. And I think it just, if you've got a large team of, 20, 30, 40 people offshore that you need to build up, quickly, maybe a central hub would work better for that, and you can create a sort of vibe around there and just a culture. But when I started at my current company and I interviewed the offshore team, I asked them, do you feel like you work for CompareClub, or do you feel like you work for an offshoring company who does work for CompareClub? And they all said, no, we feel like we work for CompareClub. So I think that's an important thing to realize, that even events that you do for them, you try and make sure that they're included, and it's small things like that I think that make it a big difference. But yeah, just the so I think from a cultural perspective, like there's differences in Indonesia where most people there don't do unit testing. It's more legacy type systems. you won't find a lot of candidates who are working on bleeding edge technology or anything close to that. It takes a long time to find people like that. In the Philippines, what I found, at least at some of the companies I saw there, was they would promote quite quickly. So like 3, 4 years, 5 years, they become a lead. Whereas, in Australia, that'd be more like a mid-level engineer. So, um, there's different expectations there. And, if you want to find a good tech lead who's got, 15 years experience, it might be more difficult to find it in some of those places. So I think you just got to judge, based on some of that, just which location is best for you.
Great. And do you think, Justin, Uplers itself being a startup, being a product startup, because we know what it takes, and because we ourselves are trying to build those high performing engineering teams, and so high performing teams in general. Do you think that understanding that context sharing, having that internally, having that culture internally, also helps in relating to the journey which you shared, kind of trying to find the kind of people or the kind of core team you would like to have in your team?
Yeah, no, look, I can only assume it must be with the, you'd be in a market where things would potentially move quickly. You could get competitors come up. I'd imagine you guys would try and build out the best you can internally and know that, from lessons learned there, what it might take for partners coming onto the platform, what they would need. So yeah, I definitely think there'd be more of a hunger to do the right thing there.
There's one thing that just clicked me. I think you were
Yeah.
also sharing about your experience working with offshoring across and as well as across different types of companies. Uh, I'm sure there is a certain right match for everyone out there. So, do you have any learnings in that journey around, okay, if you are possibly this is something which may work better. If you're possibly this is may possibly
Um,
something work
yeah,
better.
probably more controversial. The I would generally hear about offshoring work well from very senior exec level, where
Mhm.
they're not hands on. They don't know the details of what's going on. They kind of just
Mm.
see, well, we're paying X amount of people
Yeah.
compared to local,
Mhm.
and we're kind of getting features delivered. But because
Mhm.
it's especially at large organizations, like they're not going to know at the feature level what's been delivered because it's incremental features, like it's nothing significant in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I tend to find they've got a very skewed view of what works well because when you speak to the people on the ground,
Yeah.
they know it's not really working. And I have had similar experiences where it's just, yeah, we've got all this offshore team. Sure, it's costing us nothing compared to an engineer locally, but
Mm.
takes them 3 times the amount of time and we have to rewrite all their code. So actually, it's not cheaper. It's actually more expensive for us to actually have
Mm.
that.
Yeah.
And that's where, we would then push back and say, look, okay, we're not accepting the people that you're bringing on board. This is the bar that we've set. And we eventually had to do that where it was, well, if you're not going to deliver this, we're not going to pay for it. So I think if you're an exec looking to build up a large offshore team, you may go out to some of the vendors and build up these large cheap teams, but the quality very likely won't be there. But you kind of tick the box. So if they want to do that, go for it. But yeah, if you want to have quality people who are going to contribute positively to the organization and to the teams, because also you've got to consider the local engineers as well. If they're working with someone who's not a good performer, their motivation is going to drop. They're not going to be as engaged. It's going to slow them down having to rewrite things or review their code, and it's going to net out to nothing. Probably cost you more money to actually have that offshore team. So on paper, might look okay. So I think it's, if anyone's trying to go quickly and scale up, I think they've got to be very cautious of that, because I don't think it works as well as they might think it does. Having a platform like Uplers, I could definitely see that. You could spread that out to multiple people, and you could get through more candidates quite quickly. So I think in terms of that, yeah, that could work. But yeah, going out to a large vendor and saying we need 200 people to start within the next 6 months, I think you're going to. I don't think you're going to succeed with that, because they'll just give you whoever, and there'll be people hiding under the covers. You just don't know until they actually start, and it just doesn't work out, and then you'll end up having to replace them and having people really frustrated working with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much for being so kind of as transparent as possible with the journey that you've had, because it really helps with especially the newbies to navigating this land. And these do's and don'ts certainly are kind of gems of knowledge that we can all share in the journey together. I think understanding that challenge itself was a great, I would say, passion that we carried. That okay, we could see that okay, this is the challenge which is there out in the market. That's the reason we focused on building a platform where our role is majorly to facilitate the right matchmaking. That's what we can do best with the mix of AI and human intelligence that we are trying to build. If we are kind of trying to solve that problem, the rest of the things I think should also fall in place. But yes, great and amazing, Justin, for all the, I would say, insights you shared on the call today. It was great meeting you, and I'm sure we'll have more connects in the coming months.
No, thanks
And
very much, Rishma.
looking forward to building that team together. Uh, Hopefully, it will just add up to the experience that we have had with each other till today.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it.